We're talking about the defensive front. This is the position group that has made Georgia the college football powerhouse that it is. Is that still true? Next on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. He is Daniel. I am Clint. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Yes, FanDuel.com. More on them in a moment. Appreciate them, and we appreciate you. The everydayers, the first listeners, and the loyal third segment listeners, the 199. You guys are the best. This podcast is for fans, by fans. If you're joining us this offseason because you want to get into basketball, you want to get in some Georgia offseason portal talk, as well as Kirby, fine-tuning the recruiting trail, this is where it's at. We talk Bulldogs every single day. On today's episode, we're talking about a very simple understanding. Daniel, it's pretty simple.
Okay.
Defense does, in fact, win championships. Now, how do I know this? Well, because Georgia's won back-to-back. So let's start there. And then a Michigan high-flying, high-octane, pass-heavy a defensive run-first mentality team won the next one.
How about this year?
And then two of what I would consider the worst quarterbacks to ever play in a national championship game are going toe-to-toe together against defensive-minded, tough, rugged, run-heavy teams. All in all, defense does, in fact, still matter a great deal. And where Kirby has put a lot of, not all, but most of the eggs in the basket has been on the trenches, on the defensive side of the ball. And so, Daniel, we're going to start there, breaking down the position group and talking about guys going out, guys coming in, what we think the depth of this team or this position group looks like for this team, and how we predict it. But Daniel, let's start with where we're at today. And to begin this conversation, I'm just gonna let you know where we begin. I'm gonna list names, and then I'm just gonna ask you if any of these names are playing this coming year in 2025.
Okay, this will be like a quiz.
Yeah, it's a quiz. It is. For Georgia, playing for Georgia in 2025. A little quiz. Michael Williams.
No.
Okay. Nazir Stackhouse.
No.
Okay. Chaz Chambliss.
No.
Jalen Walker.
No.
Warren Brinson.
Also no.
Okay. Well, Daniel, I've listed all the meaningful snaps that Georgia has seen from the defensive side of the ball all of last year, including sack leaders, tackle leaders, heart of defensive guys in the middle. And none of them are coming back, juniors and seniors, Ty Ingram, Dawgs as well in that. Now, all of a sudden, Daniel, the people that we have coming in are let's just say fresh. They got fresh legs, Daniel.
Sure. Some of them are freshmen, so they should have fresh legs.
They ought.
Yeah, Ty Ingram Dawkins, another significant name that you didn't mention. If we focus this conversation onto like the meat and potatoes, like the interior of the defensive line, Clint, then I think this is the position group that when Georgia is dominant, you can easily point to. I don't want to oversimplify football, right?
But the people need you to oversimplify it for them, Daniel.
When I see things, I tend to say things. That's what the microphone right here is for.
Yes.
And when Georgia is dominant on the defensive side of the football, it's on that interior of the defensive line. They have not a good player, Clint, not a above average player, but an exceptional game-changing player. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis. These are two all-time legends of Georgia football. And I don't think I'm breaking any news when I say Georgia has fallen off of that in the last couple of years.
Y'all remember Devontae Wyatt? You all mocked him. You all couldn't stand him, saying that he wasn't as good as we would have murdered to have Devontae Wyatt on this year's team, and he would have eaten, Daniel.
Yeah, of course he would have. He would have been the best player on the defensive front. It's not a knock against Warren Brinson and Nazir Stackhouse. Both good players for Georgia. Both did good things for Georgia. It's not a knock on Ty Ingram Dawkins. But the fact of the matter is that when we look at the subtraction for Georgia, they lose most, I'm going to say, because it's not all. We'll get to that in the second segment, but they lose most of their significant experience in that interior. And we certainly did see some flash plays out of all three of those guys at different times. And that is a huge cause for concern for Georgia. The bigger cause for concern, Clint, is that those were your three best guys on the interior of the defensive front.
Yep.
And they're not good enough to be your three best guys. And I don't know any other way to say it, but if Georgia wants to get to where Georgia wants to be, we need better dudes on the interior of the defensive line than those guys. And so it's not like a good news, bad news, because there is no good news.
No.
It's like a bad news, worse news. The bad news is that we're losing our three best interior defensive linemen.
There it is.
The worst news is we weren't good enough at that position with those guys.
All the guys we're losing were the most experienced, and all the guys that were experienced weren't that good. Ergo, just to let you know how logic goes, the guys behind them that don't have experience, when you stay in the program while you get experience, the guys that couldn't replace them lack experience because they couldn't beat them out talent, development, and knowledge-wise. And that's who we're left with. Inexperienced and not as talented as that group that Daniel just said wasn't cutting it for us. What we needed them to be, they weren't it.
Yeah. And so I think I look at this position group, and over the last couple of years, it has been a bit of source of frustration for me. And when I look and project at 2025 at this group, the fact of the matter is that the additions are not vast. Like it's not like Kirby. I'll spoil segment 2 for you because we're going to talk about guys coming in. Okay. Kirby did not go into the portal and sign a bunch of these guys. In fact, he signed none of them.
Oh, okay. Now I was told what you're telling me right now.
Sure.
Is I was told we would rather have 5-star wide receivers.
Well, yes. And we got them.
Then disrupt it, because when we've won championships, Daniel, we've had multiple 5-star wide receivers and not disruptive forces on the defensive line, correct?
Wrong. Or did you got that backwards.
Okay, thank you.
You got that backwards. We didn't go into the portal and get any of these big-time defensive tackles, interior defensive linemen. Now, we have some guys that we signed. For example, a guy we signed in the portal last year that is coming back again this year. A guy, a piece that I think could continue to develop into something. We've got some talented players. We obviously have some incoming freshmen. The big picture is, and stay tuned for the rest of the episode, we'll get into this. I just don't know how to look at this position group and be excited or confident going into 2025. I don't feel good.
I'm going to ask you to give me a word to describe that feeling, and I'll give you my word to describe the feeling for that not good that you have right after these. And these are, in fact, PrizePicks, Daniel. PrizePicks are fantastic. You need to go over there right now to PrizePicks. I don't know if you understand how daily fantasy works, Daniel, and how things within the internet work for us. And that's because it's very, very simple. You get over there right now, prizepicks.com. What you're going to do is you're going to set a lineup for yourself.
My understanding is I'm just going to choose over or under. Like I'm just going to choose more points, assists, rebounds, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or under. more or less. It's a very simple thing. And I just click, and then I win money. Is that what you're saying?
It's simple. And if your pick hits, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Yeah, that's right. 1,000 times your money just by making a few simple picks.
So if I make my normal $10,000 wager, you're saying
your normal cash bag,
yes, my normal $10,000 wager.
You're looking at Lamar Jackson over 250 passing yards, Travis Kelce more than 70 receiving yards. It's fun to predict, easy to play. Ready to run your game this football season. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 just for playing. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level with PrizePicks. PrizePicks, run your game.
Lost track where the media assets were, but I found them. Clint, one word you said to describe this unit, media assets everywhere now. One word to describe this unit. I'm curious as to what your one word is. Now, are you talking about describing what we're going to be looking at in 2025 or your current feeling about them right now?
Daniel, this is great. Why don't
juicy?
What? Look, put your hands together, Daniel. Okay. Yeah. Squeeze that lemon. It's worth it. There's just a whole lot, guys. It's like merging.
Chop that cilantro.
Guys, you want a nice stiff chop. If you know how to chop cilantro,
you want segment 3, Clint.
Okay, sorry.
We're in segment 2.
Okay. Look,
people do not love the banter that much.
I want you to tell me how you feel today and then what we're going to be looking at in 2025. Mm-hmm. So today, how do you feel? Give me a word.
How I feel today is despondent. I don't want to even say nervous or anxious. I genuinely believe, and I've been thinking about this position group probably more than any this offseason.
Okay.
I think it is a genuine bad situation for Georgia.
Interesting.
And I think there is going to be, and already is, a lot of expectation being placed on one 18-year-old freshman.
Yep,
and listen to me, Georgia fans. That is a Tennessee-type poverty move.
It's not great.
Georgia shouldn't be doing that. Like, we shouldn't be like, well, if Nico hits, we're going to be really good. You understand how it's a poverty move to be like, we got this one 18-year-old and we're going to put all of our eggs in that basket? That shouldn't be how the Georgia Bulldogs are operating.
Nope.
We should be stacking depth at this position. But I fear, and we're going to talk about a lot of names, but I fear that all of the expectations are being placed on one guy. And honestly, that makes me more than nervous, Clint. I think at this moment, I'm feeling pretty down on this group. How are you feeling? Can you talk me back onto the ledge?
I'm going to try with my follow-up question. How I'm going to feel 2025 when season gets here. How I feel today, it's not despondent. It's I don't know how to feel. I'm in a glass box emotion. I just don't know how to feel. Someone tell me how to feel, because on one hand, it's exactly as you stated.
Mm-hmm.
We're losing everybody of a group that we called, again, soft all year long. Okay? Again, fine. Banged up, injured. A couple of these guys, Jordan Hall, not seeing a lot of the field.
Sure.
Bunch of stuff from camp that lingered for days. We have two names that I feel good about coming into this year. And I think I feel good about them because of how they play their game. Two bigger guys, Christian Miller, as well as Jordan Hall. I feel good about them. I don't feel great. I feel good.
Okay.
Two bigger guys, interior through and through. I'm okay. Give me those. All right, that's the start of it. After that, Daniel, again, freshmen start lining up and stacking behind them. Second-year guys going into this. We got Johnson, Ogbogu, Joseph Jonah Ajayi, Jordan Thomas. Big, high motor, skilled guys. And by the way, of that group, Jordan Thomas might be the best of the group. A lot of these guys, when I say unproven, untested, literally didn't start playing football. Maybe it wasn't stateside for some of this until real recent.
Yeah.
So Kirby and company have their work cut out for them. Are these guys big? Yeah. Do they look physically imposing? Yeah. Can they move an offensive guard back off the line of scrimmage? Daniel?
Can they dislodge a block and tackle a back?
Because that's their job. It's not to look pretty. It's not to power. That's their job.
Okay. So like the kicker, what do we want him to do again, Clint? Remind me. It's confusing.
I want Rex Specs back so bad. I want them to kick the ball through the uprights.
Okay. And the defensive line, we want them to discard the offensive lineman and make a play. That's great. I think of the names coming back, Clint. I'm going to add Xavier McLeod to the list. I actually like the way he played this year. Transfer, obviously, from South Carolina. He's a redshirt freshman. He's coming in. He's still young. I think we think, transfer coming in. I think sometimes you don't know how long this guy's been playing college football. I think sometimes the expectations. He was a very young guy last year. It's still developing. And I don't know if you know this, Clint. Trey Scott can make some lemonade.
Yeah,
Trey Scott is a guy that he can take, he will get the best out of you. Let me just say that. Like, he will produce. And so I trust that with another season. I think Xavier McLeod's going to be a guy. But I think you mentioned those names. It's a lot of, guys that are going into their second year. And I think maybe Jordan Hall, to me, I agree with you, is maybe the front runner of that group. And then obviously Elijah Griffin coming in, headlining this class of true freshmen. We need some guys to pop. Whether it's Christian Miller in his third year, we need him to pop, like really move. Whether it's Jordan Hall or Jordan Thomas, we need a guy to really take a big leap. Or we're counting on this 18-year-old kid to come in and be the second coming of Jalen Carter, which, again, is just not a reasonable expectation.
Daniel, do you want to know how many tackles? All the names you just listed that are on campus, not Elijah Griffin, not all the names we listed, 6, 7 guys. The total number of tackles returning on the interior of the defensive line is
I want to die.
26 tackles between all of them combined, Daniel.
Okay.
So when we say untested, when we say unproven, when we say lack of experience, underclassmen have to show up, need somebody to pop. Christian Miller, Hall, McLeod, those guys are included. And they got meaningful snaps. It wasn't just junk time. Christian Miller probably had the most significant snaps out of all of them last year.
Yeah.
McLeod had a couple of games where he's shown, but 26 total tackles between all of them combined, a lot of them not registering a single tackle whatsoever. Camp is going to be crucial. So crucial for us this coming year. We're going to come back after this. We're going to talk about some names that have left, what we think. I'm going to give you the answer of what I think going into 2025 is. I'll try to talk Daniel back off the ledge. But first, these. And these are, in fact, FanDuel. FanDuel.com. Make every moment more over at FanDuel. They're fantastic. They're great. Daniel loves them. I love them. We all love them. We sometimes we collaborate together, Daniel, and sometimes we're betting over each other on what bets we want to throw in there and get going.
You'll place a bet, and then I'll immediately come behind you and place the exact same bet. And then you'll place it again because you got confused. And then, but we win a bunch of money on FanDuel.
But we win a ton of money because it's over on FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Locked On Bulldogs, the official sportsbook of Locked On Podcasts everywhere. Right now, Daniel, you place a $5 bet, you win that bet, you get $300 bonus bets.
That seems like a lot. It seems like more.
It's more. Is it going up? It's going up. Just like
if only there were things to bet on right now, Clint. If only we were in the throes of college basketball season, NBA season, NFL playoff season. If only there was anything out there for me to bet on.
We have all the things, Daniel. FanDuel.com. Make every moment more. FanDuel, the official sports book of Locked On Bulldogs. Get over there right now.
I think the thing that makes me the most nervous, and I want to get into your word for projecting for the 2025 season, how you're going to feel, come August, September. I think the thing that makes you the most nervous as we talk about all those new faces, and there's a lot of new guys. And so you might be thinking to yourself, okay, well, you know what? There's a lot of highly recruited guys. There's a lot of guys that have got a chance to step in and replace. And, we lost some key guys. I mean, there's no doubt about that. We mentioned Nazir Stackhouse, Warren Brinson, Ty Ingram, Dawkins, also Jamal Jarrett transferring, a name we haven't really mentioned yet. Not a significant contributor on, last year's team, like the way those other three guys were, but maybe Kristen Miller, maybe Jordan Thomas, maybe Jordan Hall, maybe, one of these freshmen, maybe another one, Ogbogo, or some of these more inexperienced guys. There's a lot of options. And so you might think to yourself, well, that's really positive because surely some of those guys are going to hit and they're going to be able to replicate what we lost. That's the problem, Clint.
Yes, sir.
We don't need to replicate. I don't want to sound like I'm beating a dead horse here, but we can't replicate what we lost because we weren't good enough last year. If you're confused as to whether or not I'm correct about that,
he's not, brother. He's very correct.
Maybe go back and watch the Notre Dame game again and see how it looked.
I wouldn't.
To you, I would. Listen, I want to forget as many things about that as humanly possible. Okay?
Yes,
so don't go back and do it. I'm just telling you the Georgia defensive front was not up to snuff last year. We've already discussed this in great detail. We need guys to not only rise to the level of guys that we lost, we need them to even exceed that greatly heading into next year, which is why honestly, it is the position group, Clint. The group. I know how we all feel about Stacey Searles. I know how we all feel about, people get nervous about quarterback. I'm sure it is the position group, Clint, that I feel the most pessimistic about heading into next year. And if you were to look me dead in the eye and say, Daniel, do you think Georgia is going to be a legitimate national championship favorite next year? Right now, I would probably say no. And the reason I would say no is because of the defensive front. That's how strongly I feel about this position group in particular.
Daniel, I am not, what I'm about to say is not suggesting, don't hear me say this and think I'm suggesting we can replicate 2021. Okay. That's not what I'm about to say. But what I'm
glad you're not about to say that.
What I'm about to say, vis-a-vis the following, is that there is a good chance that the production on the field that we're losing and untested guys coming back up in the ranks, although talented and put on a depth chart, can make an impact. I'm giving you a scenario in which impact can be made. 2020 Georgia Bulldogs had Devontae White, senior, defensive line, 2020. Rochester was on that. Warren Brinson was a freshman. Jordan Davis was a junior. We had Mitchell and Jalen Carter as freshmen. Defensive end, Malik Herring. We had Walker and Walthor as sophomores, underclassmen, not utilized as much. 2021 comes around. All those younger guys all of a sudden get all the pop, all the run. We bring back some guys, admittedly. Some of the guys that were juniors stayed around, so they made a presence. But there was a big turnover from 2020, 2021. Large turnover. They popped that year, Daniel. They saw an improvement from untested guys. And it wasn't like we had banger defense 2020. 2020 is a good team.
Sure.
Not banger.
No.
Okay.
Nothing like 2021.
Nothing
the best defense in the history of college football.
That's what I'm saying. So if 2020 had a large scale turnover, 2021, and we had that improvement, because I remember that offseason and we had questions all over the board. everywhere. We were thrilled. Jordan Davis says, "Hey, guess what? Let's play some more.
I'm coming back."
We were beyond thrilled, ecstatic, and saying he's going to anchor this. And he was good at that. Like, y'all, he had already made his bread in 2020. Like, he was going to go get drafted and he was going to be great. Turns out he is. Turns out the Eagles are the number one defense in the NFL for a reason, because they have more Georgia Bulldogs playing on that defense than any other team.
I'm shocked. I, for one, am shocked.
Can't believe that all across every level has a Georgia Bulldog making plays. And then
I'm shocked.
No. There was a big turnover, and that year had the best defense. I'm not suggesting we have Jalen Carter on this team. We might in Elijah Griffin, again, generational type guy, but okay, maybe I'm not ready to do that because that's unfair to any kid. What I'm suggesting is I've seen a bounce back before, Daniel.
Yeah.
And we have the talent. Kirby's recruited. These guys are there. They're uber talented, uber physical. Can they technically? And that's what I need to see most of all. So a word to describe is hopeful. Daniel, I am hopeful based upon 4 or 5 years ago, the turnaround we saw. If they can get the technical aspects of hand fighting and winning, pushing back the line of scrimmage, dislodging guys and letting the linebackers turn into the Nakobe Deans, the Roquans, all what we've seen before, which we have those skill guys.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful, Daniel. I'm very optimistic in this crew and very hopeful because I've seen it before historically, and the talent is there. Give me a hard camp in 2 months. Give me the hardest camp that you've ever run, Kirby, on the defensive side, on the interior. Rebuild that thing. Make our backbone strong as all get out. I believe in it.
I think the path forward for an elite Georgia defensive front, an elite interior Georgia defensive line, I'm here to tell you, just point blank statement of fact. Elijah Griffin is probably the most talented. He's certainly the most talented interior defensive lineman on the roster. He's probably the most talented player on the roster, at least top 5. He will not be the best defensive lineman on this year's team. He won't be. He will be the best defensive lineman maybe of his career of all the players on this team. But this season, he won't be it. He won't
we'll
be
see
it.
Flashes of it, but not for the entire season.
If he's the best defensive lineman on this team, y'all better pack it in, because we're screwed in a royal way.
I'm talking coaches being fired mid-season.
Best case scenario for Georgia is that the best defensive lineman on this team is not Kristen Miller,
nope,
or Jordan Hall,
nope,
or Xavier McLeod this year. The best case scenario for Georgia is that at the end of the year, we look back and we say the best defensive lineman on this team was either Nazir Johnson, Jordan Thomas, or Joseph Jonah-Ajayi. I think you need one of those freshmen from this year to just assert himself and say, you know what? I'm that dude. And it took me a minute to get my feet under me, and I learned the system and the speed of the game and the physicality of the, SEC offensive line. But we need to be hearing in camp that one or more of those guys is absolutely whipping people on the offensive line.
It's the Channing Tindall effect. Mm-hmm. It's all of a sudden, out of nowhere comes a dude that winds up going round 1 because he is just that much of an alpha, in which you didn't hear from him for 2 years. And all of a sudden it's like, he's the dude.
Yeah. I mean, it's not you see this all the time where it's there's guys. I mean, it was CJ Allen, right? 2 years or last year. Or I guess 2 years ago now, because last year's was this past season.
Interesting.
Where he's not the most highly recruited guy, but it's you start to hear it and you're like, oh, this is the guy. He's just found it. And we need one of those freshmen from last year to elevate themselves, because again, we need to be higher than where we have been on this defensive front. Let us know your thoughts in the comments about this Georgia defensive front. Are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic? Where do you land? And we'll be back all off season talking about these Dogs. We'll be talking about the basketball team. Don't you dare let one loss on the road at Tennessee let you think that we aren't going to be talking about Mike White and this basketball team all year. Auburn, I'm telling you, you better enjoy that number 1 ranking while you got it. Because them Dogs is hell.
You coming to Steg?
Them Dogs. Yeah. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.